There's something no one's telling you. And it's not just a theological debate. It's a cover-up. The Bible mentions them in passing, like a whisper in a thunderstorm. The sons of God saw the daughters of men. Stop. Who were they? Why were they watching? Why, if Adam was the first created being, were they already here? The official answer? Silence. And that's the problem. Because these weren't symbols. They weren't allegory. They were real. A race of divine beings, older than man, powerful beyond comprehension. They came down, interfered, interbred. What they created wasn't human. It was monstrous. The Nephilim, giants, tyrants, abominations. And God didn't just send a flood to cleanse sin. He sent it to contain something. Something unnatural, unholy, out of control. You've seen the flood as judgment. But what if it was containment? What if Noah's Ark wasn't just a rescue story, but a lockdown protocol? And what if the thing God tried to bury is starting to rise again? Jesus warned us, as it was in the days of Noah. And here we are. Genetic experimentation, transhumanism, be your own God. The same game, different board. This isn't just prophecy. This is a blueprint. Skip this video, and you'll go on believing that Genesis is just the beginning of a story. Watch it, and you'll realize it's the middle of a war that started before Adam, before Eden, a war that's never ended. And now, it's your turn to choose a side. The Bible opens with the words, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." But in between those lines, right there in the silence, there's a mystery, a whispered story hidden in plain sight. Because before Adam walked the earth, someone else was here. Scripture mentions them, briefly but powerfully. They're called the sons of God. Not angels, not humans, something in between. So who were they? And why were they erased from Sunday school? Let's go back before Eden, before mankind, to a time we've all but forgotten. A time when the cosmos was being shaped, and the sons of God shouted for joy. Job 38 verse 7 paints a picture of that time. When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy. These weren't metaphors. These were beings, present, watching, rejoicing as the earth was formed. But if they existed before Adam, then what were they? And what happened to them? This is where our story begins, with a question that flips the creation story on its head. Was Adam really the first created being? Imagine this. The universe is being born. Light is racing across the darkness. Planets are spinning into place. And someone is watching it all unfold. They're not God, but they're not like us either. They're called the B'nai Elohim, the sons of God. And in the book of Job, God challenges Job. Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Tell me, if you understand, while the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy. These weren't passive onlookers. They were witnesses, participants, celebrators of creation. But something happened, because by the time we get to Genesis 6, the tone shifts dramatically. The sons of God appear again, but this time, they're not just watching. They're interfering. The sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they took them as wives. What does that even mean? Did heavenly beings really come down and mix with humans? Were these angels? Or something else? And if they did this before the flood, why? What was their goal? This mystery has echoed for centuries. And the answers may reveal a story far older and far more complex than Adam and Eve in a garden. Long before Eve took a bite from the fruit, another rebellion was already in motion. And it wasn't in a garden. It was in the heavens. The story of the Watchers, the rebellious sons of God, gives us a whole new lens on the fall. It wasn't just Adam and Eve who disobeyed. Heaven had its own traitors. The book of Enoch tells us they made a pact. 200 of them. They descended to Mount Hermon. They swore to abandon their place in heaven, to become flesh, to claim human brides. This wasn't an accident. It was a declaration of war, a war on divine order. And their children, the Nephilim, became monsters of myth and legend. So terrible, they threatened to destroy the earth itself. The flood wasn't just about human wickedness. It was about erasing the unnatural, resetting creation. Because this story isn't just about man's fall. It's about heaven's rebellion. The flood wasn't just water. It was judgment, not just for mankind, but for the celestial. The Nephilim drowned. The Watchers were bound, according to Enoch, cast into darkness, awaiting final judgment. And when the waters receded, the world was quiet again. But was it clean? Because Genesis 6 says something odd. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward. Wait, afterward? After the flood? If the purpose of the flood was to destroy them, how could they return? Some scholars believe remnants survived. Others say their spirits became what we now call demons, disembodied, restless, vengeful. The Bible doesn't give us a clear ending. And maybe that's the point. Because maybe this story isn't over. Maybe the influence of these ancient beings still lingers in the world around us. In whispers, in shadows, in legends. And maybe, just maybe, Adam wasn't the beginning. He was just the beginning of our chapter. So the flood ends. Noah's Ark lands. Humanity gets a fresh start. But then, like a glitch in the timeline, the Nephilim reappear. In Numbers 13, Moses sends spies into the land of Canaan. They return terrified. We saw the Nephilim there, they report. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them. Wait, what? I thought they were wiped out. How could they still exist? Some believe they were reintroduced through the bloodline of Noah's daughters-in-law. Others suggest that fallen sons of God came back, repeating their ancient sin. Either way, they were back. Giants walked the earth once more, Amalekites, Anakites, Rephaim. All names that hint at superhuman strength and a supernatural origin. It wasn't just war that Israel faced in the Promised Land. It was a second encounter with something ancient and unnatural. This isn't your average Sunday school story. The Old Testament is filled with strange wars, God commanding Israel to wipe out entire tribes. It sounds brutal, even unjust, until you look closer. Many of those tribes, like the Anakim and Rephaim, trace their ancestry to the Nephilim, the giants, the corrupted bloodlines. This wasn't just territorial conquest. It was spiritual warfare, a fight to preserve humanity's purity. God wasn't just trying to clear land. He was purging something old, something dangerous, a remnant of a pre-flood rebellion that refused to die. And leading this charge were people like Joshua, David, men who didn't just fight kings, they faced giants. David and Goliath? That wasn't just a story about courage. It was the final echo of a war that started before Adam was even born. Let's go deeper. What if the sons of God weren't just supernatural beings? What if they were part of a forgotten civilization? One that walked among early humanity, ruled over them, and maybe even built the structures we can't explain today? Ancient texts from around the world, from Mesopotamia to South America, tell stories of sky beings, knowledge bringers, and hybrid kings. Could these be distorted memories of the Watchers? The ones who came down, gave forbidden knowledge, and ruled like gods? The Book of Enoch says they taught mankind metallurgy, magic, astrology. It's like a cosmic Pandora's box was opened. And what came out changed the course of history, and may still influence us today. So maybe the Tower of Babel wasn't just about reaching heaven. Maybe it was about reconnecting with those beings, or becoming like them. After the flood, the Watchers were imprisoned, the Nephilim destroyed. But what happens to the spirit of something that was never meant to exist? According to the Book of Enoch, the spirits of the Nephilim became what we now call demons. Disembodied, restless, hungry for embodiment. This changes everything. Demons aren't just fallen angels. They're the spirits of hybrid beings, part heavenly, part human. Neither truly belong in heaven or on earth. They wander. They whisper. They influence. And maybe that's why demon possession is such a central theme in the New Testament. When Jesus cast them out, they begged to enter pigs. Why? Because they crave bodies. They crave form. They remember what it was like to walk the earth. And they want it back. This isn't just an ancient tale. It's a war that still echoes in our world today. The rebellion of the sons of God didn't end with the flood, or with David and Goliath, or even with the cross. The Apostle Paul writes in Ephesians, "We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, powers, rulers of the darkness of this world, and spiritual wickedness in high places." That sounds like more than just metaphor. It sounds like the old war, still raging, still unseen, still influencing. And maybe, just maybe, the same sons of God who once corrupted mankind are still working in the shadows, through ideologies, through influence, through deception. The question is, do we recognize the echoes of Eden when we hear them? Because understanding this mystery changes everything we thought we knew about good and evil, creation and rebellion, heaven and earth. And we're just getting started. There's a strange thread running through the Bible, stories of deception that seem to go far deeper than human nature. From Cain's murder of Abel, to the tower builders of Babel, to the rise of idol worship across the ancient world. Where did this sudden knowledge of evil come from? The Book of Enoch has a chilling answer. The Watchers didn't just teach metalwork and enchantments. They also revealed secrets of the heavens, astrology, signs, sorcery. They sowed the seeds of rebellion in human hearts. In short, they corrupted the image of God. Imagine it. A world where divine beings were once seen as protectors, now twisting knowledge for personal gain. And as humans embraced these forbidden arts, their hearts hardened. Violence increased. Idols were raised. It wasn't just human sin at work. It was influence. An ancient deception designed to pull us away from the Creator and toward the counterfeit. Here's where things get wild. The Bible isn't the only ancient text that speaks of sky beings, hybrid offspring, or a great flood. Almost every ancient culture has stories of gods descending to earth. Titans, Anunnaki, the Apkallu, the Viracochas, different names, same pattern, beings from the sky, mixing with mortals, creating giants or demigods, giving knowledge and triggering catastrophe. Sound familiar? What if these myths are fractured memories of the same event? What if the Nephilim left such an imprint on the ancient world that their story echoed across civilizations? We think the Bible is alone in these tales, but maybe it's the clearest version of a story humanity has tried to remember or suppress. And maybe those other myths aren't fantasies. They're distorted reflections of a real event, one that terrified the ancient world so much it became legend. In Matthew 24, Jesus says something cryptic. As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. We often think he's talking about sin, violence, maybe apathy. But what if it's more literal? In Noah's day, divine human hybrids walked the earth. Forbidden knowledge ran wild. Creation itself was under threat. Could Jesus be hinting at more than just moral decay? Could we be heading toward another age of mingling? With AI blurring the lines of consciousness, genetic manipulation pushing science beyond nature, and an obsession with becoming gods rising again. It feels eerily familiar. The days of Noah weren't just about sin. They were about tampering with the divine order. And according to Jesus, that pattern will return. The Book of Enoch doesn't leave the Watcher's story unresolved. It tells us that Enoch, yes, the same man who walked with God and was not, was chosen to deliver a message of judgment to the Watchers. He was taken into the heavenly realms, shown visions, given insight into the spiritual mechanics of creation, and then he was told to confront them. These mighty fallen beings, begging for forgiveness. But God's answer was final. You will have no peace. You will be bound until the day of judgment. Enoch's message was terrifying. The Watchers would be cast into a pit, their children, the Nephilim, destroyed, and their knowledge cursed. It was the first divine courtroom, the first excommunication from heaven, and it shows us something profound. Even the most powerful created beings are not beyond judgment. Not then. Not now. You might be wondering, why does any of this matter? Why should we care about giants, Watchers, and a pre-Adamic rebellion? Here's why. Because this isn't just about the past. It's about how we see the present and prepare for the future. When we understand that spiritual rebellion predates humanity, we begin to see our world differently. We realize that we're not just dealing with bad choices, but with an ancient battle that still shapes our culture, politics, and even technology. It's why the concept of gods still captivates us. Why stories of hybrids and forbidden science keep popping up. Why power, knowledge, and transcendence are always just out of reach, but desperately pursued. This story, the story of the sons of God, is the hidden prequel to our human story. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Because this battle isn't over. It's just entered a new chapter. Today, we don't fight with swords. We fight with information, with media, with ideologies. And yet, behind all of it, the Bible still whispers the same warning. We wrestle not against flesh and blood. The ancient war hasn't gone away. It's just evolved. In our age of enlightenment, the old gods wear new masks. Entertainment, technology, movements, many fueled by philosophies that echo Eden's oldest lie. You will be like God. But that promise? It came from a serpent. And the serpent wasn't alone. Remember, the sons of God were cast down, not destroyed. The Nephilim spirits were left to wander. Influence didn't die, it adapted. And if you've ever felt like there's something dark beneath the surface of our world, maybe there is. Maybe the war isn't past. Maybe it's right here. Right now. The most dangerous deception isn't darkness. It's false light. Paul warned that even Satan masquerades as an angel of light. Think about that. Deception isn't ugly. It's seductive. It sounds like progress, feels like freedom, looks like illumination. And in the same way the Watchers offered forbidden knowledge, under the guise of enlightenment, so too do many ideas today promise awakening. But what are we awakening to? What are we letting in? From New Age movements to technocratic dreams of immortality, the old whispers still echo. You can ascend. You can be divine. You don't need God. It's not new. It's ancient. And it always ends the same way: separation, confusion, destruction. The question is, do we recognize it? Or are we too enchanted by the light to see the fall? There's a thread running from Genesis to Revelation, a war between two seeds. After the fall, God said to the serpent, "I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your seed and her seed." This wasn't just metaphor. It was a prophecy, a bloodline war. From the Nephilim to Pharaoh, from Herod to the Antichrist, there's a pattern: attempts to corrupt, control, or kill the seed. That seed was Christ. And that war is still active. The enemy's plan has always been to distort the image of God, to taint the bloodline, to prevent redemption. But he failed. The seed came. The Messiah lived, died, and rose again. And now the strategy has shifted from physical corruption to spiritual deception. Not just to stop the seed, but to blind the harvest. Every ancient story points toward a climax. And this one is no different. The Bible says Jesus will return, not just as Savior, but as Judge, King, Warrior. And when he does, he won't just deal with human rebellion. He'll judge the spiritual powers that have ruled in darkness since before Eden, the fallen sons of God, the spirits of the Nephilim, the unseen rulers of this present age. Revelation describes a cosmic war, a cleansing of heaven and earth, a final showdown between the rightful king and the ancient pretenders. It's not fantasy, it's prophecy. And when it happens, every deception will be exposed, every hidden power unmasked, and every knee, human and otherwise, will bow. So where does that leave us? After giants and watchers, after floods and fire, after deception, rebellion, and war, where does the story go? The Bible ends not with destruction, but restoration. Behold, I make all things new. No more corruption. No more hidden hands behind the curtain. No more sons of God seeking their own glory. Only one throne, one king, one eternal kingdom. And here's the mystery. We're not just spectators. We're not pawns. We're heirs. Through Christ, we're restored to the image the Watchers tried to distort. We become what they fell from, sons and daughters of the Most High. So yes, this was the hidden story behind creation. But it's not hidden anymore. Now you've seen it. Now you know. And now it's your move.